Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Are there any others? Okay, having seen none, members of council, it's my pleasure this evening to introduce to you some guests from Capital Sports, Mr. Roy Malacra, who's President and CEO of Capital Sports, along with Mr. Cyril Eder, who's COO of Capital Sports, and Mr. David Branch as Commissioner of the Canadian Hockey League. They're going to be making a presentation to us this evening. And to lead off the introductions, I'm going to ask Mr. Gary Green to come forward, please, and welcome to the podium to give us the introductions. Welcome, Mr. Green.
Thank you very much, Mayor Salsey and City Council and staff, for allowing our group the opportunity to meet with you this evening on such very short notice. For that, we are in debt to you. We have been, as outsiders, following with great interest, of course, over not just this past fall, but for, I think, many years, the need for facilities within this city that one would be proud of and that would be very necessary in most people's opinions. Is that I see a familiar face also here around the council chamber because back, I think about 7 or 8 years ago at least, Murray Bainan, the senior partner with Brisbane Brook and Bainan, was here, and Councilman Wayne Thompson was the mayor at that point in time when we were in fact discussing everything from convention centers to multi-purpose sports and entertainment facilities. So it has taken us a while to come back again, but always nice to come back to Niagara Falls. There are some members here of staff and council who have in fact been invited to and who we have had at the John Labatt Centre that was completed a few years ago by our firm and for the Ontario Hockey League franchise. And I think at that point in time they got an opportunity to see what it did for the revitalization of the city of London. I look back and having known a great deal about this area, growing up in southern Ontario, but probably more importantly when it comes to speaking about an OHL franchise, I was a very young coach and general manager of the Peterborough Petes back in the 70s, the mid-70s, when we, at that point in time, were taking on the Niagara Falls Thunder, and in fact we're fortunate enough to beat them and go on to the Memorial Cup and to actually win the Memorial Cup. So I apologize for that, but I am proudly wearing our Memorial Cup ring. I think of that building back at that point in time, the building that still stands today and is still being very well utilized, is that 1950, as I recall, was when that building was built. Your population at that point in time was that of 22,000. Your forefathers had the great insight to in fact build facilities that seated over 3,000 people. Our belief is that you are now close to 80,000 people, and we are here to propose that after 56 years that we would like to help you build a new facilities. We are here to propose a new facilities, to encourage a new facilities, and to assist this council in building one. I want to make it very clear because, first of all, we have at SCI, where I'm a senior director of, there are 20 cities in the Ontario Hockey League. We have worked directly with 15 of those cities to, in fact, bring their hopes and dreams into a form of fruition. 11 of those 15 cities have accomplished that already. At SCI, we have solely been responsible for delivering either the new building or renovated facilities in 7 out of those 11 facilities. What's important to know that as you see that the members here tonight that we will introduce at a little later time, is that this is not a hockey arena. It's not a junior hockey facilities. It will house, we hope, a junior hockey team, but it is truly a multi-purpose sports and entertainment complex that we are promoting here. One of which an OHL team will use 40 to 50 nights per year. 40 to 50 nights. This building should be and will be very active for well over 100 nights per year. And when I say it's not a junior hockey facility, it will be a great junior hockey facility, but it will be just as great a facilities that we propose, for that of concerts, for that of wrestling matches, for that of concerts being whether or not that is hard rock music or whether or not it's Stompin' Tom Connors, but something to bring in for every man, woman, and child within your region the opportunity to enjoy facilities like this. From live theater to boat shows to those type of events that will be later explained. We also are not here by any means, shape, or form, because we are all professional business people, long time within the business, everyone here that was within our group tonight. We are not here either to push out the Masterson family and their Junior B Canucks by the least bit. Is that we feel that very much so that we function within this city clearly as with the Junior B Hockey Club and an Ontario Hockey League club. And 15 of the cities that are in the Ontario Hockey League do exactly the same thing. I did have a chance to, this afternoon, meet with Terry Masterson, and I understand that their family, as I've known from the past, have spent 35 years within this business. We have offered our cooperation to ensuring that Junior B hockey can also thrive within the city. Our group is not one of speculators. We are, in fact, a group who are, in fact, owners of junior hockey facilities. We are architects. We are, as a group, arena managers, facility managers, multi-purpose facility managers, food and beverage services. We have all of the hot buttons that I think that you will see within our presentation. Let me start off with, you've heard some of the introductions. You know the purpose of our presentation. We will take you through a short ride here, explaining to you who Capital Sports are. You know who the Ontario Hockey League are and why it will work in Niagara Falls. The Sports and Entertainment Centre, and we continue to promote the fact that it is a sports and entertainment multi-use facilities. We will take you through a few of our project histories at SCI. We will talk about the ownership structure, and we would then open it up for further questions. The people here that I've been introduced, Chris O'Reilly is here with Stadium Consultants International. He's our project director. He's worked on many of the big projects that we have throughout North America as well as the world. Rudy Suter, who is a project manager with SCI, lives right here in Niagara Falls and has for some years now. Tom Bithoff, who we will introduce a little later, will be with us. David Branch, as Mayor Salsey already pointed out, the Commissioner of the Ontario Hockey League is here with us. Roy Malacher has already been introduced. He's the President and CEO of Capital Sports, who you know as that of the Ottawa Senators and many of their other holdings owned by Eugene Melnick. Cyril Leader, COO of Capital Sports. Jeff Publo, the Director of Strategic Development for Capital Sports, are all here today. The purpose of this presentation, of course, exploring this city of Niagara Falls and your interest in developing these facilities. We know what these facilities cost, and we will take you through a number of slides whereby there are great differences. Sometimes we want to make sure that you understand we're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges here when you look at some of the other costs. Development costs to do a 5,000 to 5,500 seat arena is within $35 to $40 million price tag. And why the difference? It depends with all the characteristics as to what a city would in fact want in this facility. A reminder that when we are here to assist, we are here to assist at getting facilities, which is the facilities that you want and tailored to your needs. We're also here to bring up to $5 million in private sector financing contributed to reduce municipal investment in this project. We understand, just like in every city across the country within Canada, that the budgets are tight, and sometimes I think in the phrase of a number of the city councils that we have dealt with and who have seen their new facilities built, sometimes they just had to bite the bullet in order to get the facilities done. We understand that can be a difficult task. But very importantly, is we're here because we want to see the OHL return to Niagara Falls. It's got a tremendous tradition to it. I'd like to introduce at this point in time Roy Malacher, the CEO of Capital Sports.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you, everybody, for coming out on such a short notice. We're very excited about this opportunity because it brings together the best of all worlds in the region that we know would be tremendous for the OHL, and we know could use a facility of this size and magnitude to do what we do best, and that's bring in top-quality world entertainment. So as we envision it, let me show you how we believe we can help the city of Niagara Falls. First of all, Capital Sports and Management, owned by Eugene Melnick, I'm sure you're all aware of, is also the principal owner of, among other things, the Ottawa Senators Hockey Club, the St. Michael's Majors, the Mississauga Ice Dogs, a very, very large thoroughbred farm and racing horse operation in Ocala, Florida. He's major chairman of the board of BioVale here in Ontario, and a gentleman who has stepped forward and made the Ottawa Senators one of the premier franchises in the National Hockey League, taking it out of bankruptcy some 4 years ago. The OHL franchise that we would and have signed a letter of intent to Mr. Tom Bitov. Tom, stand up for a moment. Tom is the gentleman who's responsible for bringing the National Basketball Association to Toronto. He was the creator and the designer and the choreographer, if you will, of the Toronto Raptors, and helped get them become the first NBA franchise in Canada. He's also responsible, and his family, for the '93 World Track Championships coming to Ontario, the 1994 World Basketball Championships coming to Toronto, and he's more well-known long-term, the family, for their restaurant tourism and partnership with Wayne Gretzky and Wayne Gretzky's restaurant downtown Toronto. Tom is the future owner of this franchise, should this come to fruition, and he has already signed a letter of intent with me today on behalf of Mr. Melnick for the Mississauga Ice Dogs. SCI, you've already heard about, talk about Gary Green. He's going to come back a little bit later, tell you more about his group and some of the wonderful buildings he's built in North America and in the world, for that matter. Gary is very well respected, as is SCI, and we're going to go into depth about what they've done. We're talking here about a sports entertainment center, as Gary alluded to, that's a public-private partnership. The City of Niagara Falls would agree to build the new sports entertainment center. The OHL franchise, Mr. Bitov, would enter into a long-term lease with you to play in the new sports and entertainment center. So you would have an anchor store, which any building that is built in North America, or the world for that matter, needs that anchor store for its tenants. The franchise would move into the NF Memorial Arena for September of 2007. The proposal calls for the new sports and entertainment facility to be built by September of 2008. Capital Sports and Management, Inc. would enter into a management agreement, similar that we have now with Scotiabank Place in Ottawa and other entities that Cyril will touch base on later. And SCI would enter and design contract with the city to design and construct the sports and entertainment facility. So this is how we envision it happening. We're on a very tight timetable, obviously, but here to go into more specifics about what Capital Sports Management, Inc. has done in the past and take you down more of a background is Cyril Leader, our Chief Operating Officer.
Thanks, Roy. As Roy said, my role here is to give you a little bit of background about who we are at Capital Sports and what we do. And as Roy said, we're one of the three entities involved in the proposal we're putting forward to Council tonight. Capital Sports is part of Eugene Melnick's a group of companies. Sister companies you're probably more familiar with: Ottawa Senators Hockey Club, Scotiabank Place. We have a full-service ticket organization called capitaltickets.ca, and the two Ontario Hockey League franchises, the St. Michael's Majors and the Mississauga Ice Dogs. And the fact that we have the two franchises, we've entered an agreement and agreed with the Commissioner Branch, that we would sell one of those franchises. That's one of the main factors why we're here this evening, is that we are divesting of one of those franchises. We manage unique, valuable sports and recreation facilities, and we concentrate on our expertise on ice-related facilities. We've got significant experience with both private sector models and P3 models with the public-private partnerships. The Bell Sensplex is a successful facility in Ottawa. It's a P3 with the City of Ottawa. It's a 4-pad ice rink with an indoor soccer field. The Kinburn Sensplex is under construction. It'll be a single-pad facility with the ability to expand to a second, and we'll have an outdoor soccer field. And of course, Scotiabank Place is a private facility and is the home of the Senators, and we manage and operate all three of those facilities. And they are award-winning facilities, as evidenced by some of these awards we reference here. Why a P3 and what are the benefits? Well, in the P3s that we worked with our municipal partners, we stay current with the trends, so we are able to deliver a state-of-the-art facility for you as a municipality. We would reduce the capital investment and have done so in the past for the municipality. We bring the private sector operational expertise as part of that package. We would enhance programming that you wouldn't otherwise see. A best example of that in Ottawa is we have a school program where it's an accredited high school course that we brought to the facility that we offer now to the high schools in the area. We've also seen significant economic growth for sport tourism in Ottawa in the facility. We're doing more than one tournament a week now in the Bell Sensplex, and it has been a great boon to local sport tourism. And of course, all those together help reduce either deficits or increased profitability of these facilities. Just to give you an idea, some of the metrics that are involved at Scotiabank Place, we've had more than 12 million ticketed customers in the almost 11 years now that we've been open. We average about 30 concerts, 40 family shows, and 50 hockey games per year. And we've hosted some major events, and we'll host some great events in the future: the Juno Awards, NHL Entry Draft, the Men's College Basketball Championships, and the World Junior Ice Hockey Championships in 2009. I think more importantly, though, I think we understand the value of these facilities and how to get the most out of them. We generate about $30 million a year in corporate sponsorship and advertising and suite revenue for Scotiabank Place, and we've negotiated a number of significant agreements, all the major agreements associated with that facility, from ticket services, beer rights, right down to third-party retail. We've got a YMCA, for example, in our facility at Scotiabank Place. Key metrics from the Bell Sensplex. Again, this is the P3 with the City of Ottawa. Have over 1 million visitors per year in the first 2 years. It's been open now 2 years exactly. And again, a history of sizable community events, provincial championships in ringettes. This year in hockey will be the practice facility, official practice facility for the 2009 World Junior Hockey Championships, and a number of benchmarks established for sponsorship revenues. Again, about $500,000 per year in sponsorship revenue just for that facility alone. And I'd ask at this point Commissioner Dave Branch, Commissioner of the Ontario Hockey League and the Canadian Hockey League, to come forward, talk to you a bit about the history of hockey here in Niagara Falls and about the league itself. Dave.
Mayor Saucy, members of council, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to be before you this evening, and honored and excited. I hearken back to the days when my 3 young boys were growing up, and they used to say to me, "Hey, Dad, what do you think I should do? Should I become a doctor or a lawyer, fireman, drive a bus?" And I said, "You know what, guys, it's tough for me to respond to that because I still don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up." And I say that because I grew up with a great passion for junior hockey, watching the Flyers, watching their successes along with those teams, going down and watching hockey all through Southern Ontario, and I feel so very fortunate to work in this area now. It's been my whole working career, and I really don't know what I would do or what I'd want to do when I grow up, but it's been a real enjoyable experience. And I think what we have seen over time with the growth and evolution of the Ontario Hockey League is understanding the responsibility that we have to the game, to the communities that we represent. And we feel that we recognize, respect the tremendous history and the value that Niagara Falls meant to our league when they were part of our league. And we think, for a number of reasons, some of which I'll touch on this evening, that we're better equipped to come back and support the needs of Mr. Bittop with a franchise and help make Niagara Falls one of the true premier major junior franchises in this country. The Ontario Hockey League is a proud partner of the Canadian Hockey League. It's a 3 partnership with the Western Hockey League and the Quebec League, which represents not only the Q but Atlantic Canada as well. It's a great partnership. We've seen huge growth, and it really is a win-win model from our perspective. I think, too, as Mr. Green touched on earlier in his presentation, we've come to appreciate the leadership position that we do have. And when you look at the 17 Ontario markets in the OHL, 16 of our teams, all their youth hockey, minor hockey teams, their traveling teams, proudly wear their OHL colors. And that just shows you the work and understanding and the commitment that we have to minor hockey and to other parts of the hockey community, like the Junior B and Junior A programs, Junior C programs across and around the province. It's a win-win model when you consider what the team and what a team can mean to a centre like Niagara Falls. In a study, as shown here, $1.8 million in direct economic benefit to the host community, $6.2 million in indirect economic benefit to the host community, $7.6 million in induced economic benefit. And I can tell you, too, as an example, one of the high points and great developments of the CHL, OHL is special events, and we've seen the growth and evolution of our Canada-Russia series, our All-Star games, and of course, Memorial Cup is at an all-time high in terms of interest and awareness. Last year we were in Moncton. The year before, Ontario hosted it in London, and the 10-day experience in London, the economic impact there was suggested to be somewhere between $15 and $23 million. So it's been a real win-win proposition to host these special events as well. One of the key factors with our tremendous growth and evolution over the last 10 years has been the advent of new and improved facilities. And SCI came to us actually back a number of years ago and presented a model for Barrie, Ontario. And if you look back, the Barrie Molson Centre was really the model under which we all started to grow, because I can recall one of Mr. Green's associates saying to me, "You know, Dave, I think you guys are really missing the boat. You should just take an NHL center building like we have and scale it down." And he said, "I'm going to tell you one thing. You're going to sell out all those boxes. You're going to attract all the fans to a new facility, not just the dads, but the mums and girlfriends." And that's been the experience. Every market we've gone into, the response for the facilities has been truly outstanding. And this is a sampling of some of the most recent facilities that we've been very fortunate to see join our league. London a couple of years ago, Oshawa this year, and Kingston is into the ground and will be ready for next year. You can see here as well the impact that facilities and other elements of our growth have meant to support around this province. And I can tell you that across the Canadian Hockey League last year, over 9 million spectators witnessed CHL hockey action live. And a little known fact is that more people watch junior hockey in the CHL across our country than any other sport entertainment property in the country, including the NHL, Major League Baseball, albeit there's only one franchise, the NBA, and the like. But it's a passion in the communities that we're so very fortunate to represent. And last year, the OHL attendance numbers were just under 3 million. We've enjoyed now 10 consecutive years of growth. And somebody's going to have to help me because I just pushed a button I shouldn't have. Thanks, Jeff. A couple of other key elements before I leave you is the fact that we can now support our franchises through outstanding broadcast coverage. National games on our broadcast partner, Rogers Sportsnet. And then, as you see from the London experience, over 1 million viewers for our final championship game. And when you look at our local regional broadcast, and I know Rogers would be extremely excited to have the opportunity to broadcast at Niagara Falls, that number this year is just under 500. And so it's a tremendous opportunity for us to show our product to fans, future fans, and current fans. And it's been a real positive, one of the real leading instruments in allowing our property to grow in interest and in awareness across the province. And I guess I'm jumping to someone else's slide. I'm sorry. Jeff, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. So as been touched on a few times tonight, these type of facilities, they're more than a hockey facility, they're more than an arena. They really do give the community that hosts them the ability to attract major events, and major events bring into that community major economic benefits. citing a few case studies here. The 2006 World Junior Hockey Championship, so a year ago, this time would have just wrapped up in Vancouver, economic impact assessment of $41 million in that province, primarily in the city of Vancouver, where most of the tournament was hosted. 2004 Briar in Saskatchewan, in the city of Saskatoon, $23 million. Skate Canada in Quebec City a few years ago, $4.5 million. The key thing about these facilities is they're an attractor. You've got a great attractor in this city already, and some exciting plans, but this would go to augment those plans and really allow you to bring in the type of events that we've been talking about tonight, the type of concerts that the residents of the city would get to enjoy, as well as visitors to the city. And as everyone around this table knows, visitors to the city fill up the hotels, fill up the restaurants, and really drive the economic benefit for the community that's hosting them. And that's one of the key investment decisions that these communities have taken when considering the type of decision that we're proposing to you tonight. I want to run you through a few of the types of events that Capital Sports hosts at Scotiabank Place. Black Eyed Peas concert last year, probably about 4,000 people there. We do events ranging from Bruce Springsteen and U2, which obviously fill our venue, to family shows in the 1,000 to 4,000 attendance range, Cirque du Soleil, Globetrotters, Stars on Ice, children's shows such as The Wiggles and Disney on Ice, all sorts of concerts. The Who, Eric Clapton was recently in our building, Elton John, Guns N' Roses. So there's a sense here that there's a little bit of everything that Scotiabank Place, or a facility such as the one we're talking about tonight, would really allow you to bring to the city of Niagara Falls. So it's not all rock, it's not all country. There's everything ranging from the family shows through to the major concerts. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Gary, and he'll talk a little bit more about stadium consulting.
Chris O'Reilly and I are going to take you through some of our buildings that we have accomplished, but some of them we'll give you a grander scale, but then we will focus really on what we feel is the more appropriate model here in Niagara Falls.
We've got put together a collection of projects here to give you an overview of what kind of work our firm does. The Brisbane Brook Bain and Architects is the architectural entity with a staff of about 100 people based in Toronto. We have a smaller office in Ottawa. Stadium Consultants International is kind of a specialized group within BBB that focuses solely on sports and entertainment work. I've been with BBB since 1988, so for almost 20 years I've just solely focused on this type of building. All over the world we've done a lot of work of various sizes, from large professional team facilities down to community centers. Very well-known project in Toronto is the Air Canada Centre for the Leafs and the Raptors, 20,000 seat capacity, very successful building. We also were the authors of General Motors Place in Vancouver. We did everything from helping with the optioning of the land to rezoning, doing the building design and overseeing construction. We've done a lot of work in Europe. This project is a 16,000 seat facility in Hamburg, Germany. Project in Helsinki, Finland. This building is 14,000 seat capacity. It's a totally cashless building. It's all done with plastic cash cards, state-of-the-art technology. It was sponsored by the largest phone company in Finland. Very successful project. This has hosted quite a few world hockey tournaments in recent years. Recent project in Lithuania, which is surrounded by hockey nations, but their prime sport is basketball. So this was built 2 seasons ago, 12,000 seat capacity. And most recently, just completed last year in time for the World Hockey Championships, was in Riga, Latvia, another 11,500 seat capacity with 40 private suites. Our firm also does a lot of renovation work. We renovated what was the Calgary Saddle Dome, the Pengrove Saddle Dome now.
putting in mid-level suites, all new VIP amenities to try to update the facility so that it could compete financially with some of the larger market teams. We did a similar exercise in Edmonton at Rexall Place. Recently renovated the Ricoh Coliseum. Originally it was the largest and one of the oldest arenas of its type in North America. It has a 9,500 seat capacity and is home to the American Hockey League Marlboros in Toronto. We are also the architects that are currently renovating the new Madison Square Garden with a budget of approximately $500 million US dollars. Quite a large project. We beat out a lot of the largest big U.S. architects to win that commission. OHL facilities, as Gary mentioned, we've got quite a track record in Ontario for OHL buildings. This one is the Barrie building, which, as Dave pointed out, we took the sort of big league approach and applied it to a smaller market. It was very successful. They went to a corporate suite event with 24 suites and had deposit checks for every one of them on the first night. So overwhelming success.
Just back to Barrie for a moment, because I think what's important for us to also explain during this presentation is that we worked with municipalities, and the site is usually flexible, because we know one thing for sure, is that these facilities attract people. And they generate traffic. People need to go to these facilities because of their entertainment source. Where it is really doesn't matter as much as where you want it to be. Some cities have chosen these facilities to be the anchor for revitalization. London's a pretty good example of that that they will refer to. Others, such as in Barrie, that Chris just pointed out, when we worked with the city of Barrie, they were looking at a downtown city site and then decided to put it outside, closer to the major expressway thoroughfare, as we would call it. And as a result, that was at that point in time pretty much vacant land. When you go to that facility now and you go through the area to get to it, you will see how much that area has developed. And so when it comes to site, the flexibility is there. These truly are a driving force.
We consider them destination type buildings, so they will create a demand and an economic spin-off regardless of where you site them. The Brampton project we also did, and this is also in more of a suburban location. It's part of a larger master plan sports park with baseball diamonds and soccer pitches, and has the main arena for 5,000 plus 3 additional rinks. Very successful project that's been in operation for 2 or 3 years now is the John Labatt Centre in London, Ontario. 9,100 seats for hockey. Incorporated a historic Talbot Inn on the corner that you can see on the bottom right. This is truly a multi-use facility, very successful for concerts. We also integrated a theater design concept into the roof structure, which can swing down and convert the Arena Bowl into a 2,500 to 3,000 seat theater venue for things like the Lion King, other traveling theater shows, which is great during the summer. This is a model concept of that theater bowl, so you can see how it's not an arena anymore. It gets totally transformed into a theater through curtaining and panel systems that we've designed.
And where this is important is that a number of communities, of course, always struggle with that of should they build a performing arts center, should they build a multi-purpose sports and entertainment facilities. And so with this design, with those screens coming down, with the acoustical design that is enhanced by the shape of it. It's in the end bowl. And let's not forget that oftentimes within the summer months, which is also very busy months for Niagara Falls, is that is not when junior hockey and ice events are there. However, there has been many considerations now of constant ice shows that on a smaller basis that could perhaps be very much a part of Niagara Falls in the summertime. At the same time, your region has become very well known for its theater. This perhaps offers you another opportunity here to bring in something that will service the many people that are not only here but that are constantly here throughout the summer as tourists.
There's an exterior view of the new John Labatt Centre in London. Bottom left is the opening night to a packed house for the first night's game. And the bottom right shows you a detail of the mid-level private suites. We just were recently awarded the Kingston project, which we competed for, design project with the Ellis Don. They are just finishing off the foundations on site and are expecting to be complete for next year. It's designed as a 5,000-seat facility with the capability of expanding by an extra 1,000 seats. It's got about 38 private suites, an event restaurant that overlooks the event bowl. It's very high-quality design with Kingston limestone on the exterior. It's going to be a great building. And we've also recently been awarded the new building in Windsor for the Spitfires. This is a larger complex with 6,500 seats in the main arena, an additional 3 community pads, and a recreation center all under one roof. And we're just beginning to work on the construction documents now. We've done a lot of work in the States. This is a 4,500-seat facility in Elmira, New York. It's home to a UHL hockey team, the Jackals. Building in Florida, the Germain Arena in Naples, Florida, 7,500 seat capacity, 35 private suites, event restaurant. Bridgeport, Connecticut, 8,500 seats, sorry. Recently opened in Bloomington, another 8,500 seat capacity with 40 private suites. Just setting up for the circus there, one of their opening events. OHL renovations. We renovated the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. The structure had great bones. It was a steel structure building, but it did not have any of the amenities you see in the new facilities these days. So we put 9 sports loges across the end. And you can see on the far left, we added 20 private suites and an event restaurant and some new media facilities. And we did a similar exercise at the Peterborough Memorial Center, Gary's old home, and updated the VIP facilities for the club seating area, new private suites, and a new event restaurant, as well as some ticketing and external building improvements. As well as doing spectator facilities, we also do training centers. This is a 2-pad that we designed in Coral Springs, Florida, which was used by the Florida Panthers as their training camp. And then we also did a $30 million U.S. project in Westchester, New York, for the Madison Square Garden organization. And this houses the New York Rangers and the New York Knicks and the Liberty, the female WNBA team. And this is a private training facility. It's about 150,000 square feet of hockey rinks and exercise facilities. Yet another thing that we do at our company is that we've put together a specialized team to look at creating a highly efficient twin pad generic design for communities and sports organizations. I'm going to let Gary talk about that a little bit more. It's in affiliation with the NHL.
And the National Hockey League and Gary Bettman, they came to our firm a few years back and saying one of the big problems that every community is faced with, whether that be in Canada or the United States, and you people can well understand that, being in your situation right now, is the need for new ice facilities and more ice facilities. The difficulty that the National Hockey League understood, as did we very well, is the fact that there was no A to Z out there. There was no one-stop shopping. There was a multitude of different designs out there. There were many needs, of course, but basically it came down to needing ice surfaces for their residents. A good friend of Roy Malacher's came to me prior to that some years ago. He was with Disney Sports at the time. They had built double ice pad facilities. Their plans at Disney were, in fact, when they had the Anaheim Ducks, Mighty Ducks, were to build 25 of those facilities. What they found was that they ended up spending $13 or $14 million. They didn't quite know where to go design-wise, and they ended up not building any more because they spent too much on that double ice pad facilities. When Tony addressed me one night, he said, You guys are supposed to be the masters. You figure out how to do what we need, and that is more ice surfaces throughout North America. But we've got to do it far cheaper, because this is costing way too much for both the municipal sector as well as the private sector. On that initiative as well, we started doing some work. The National Hockey League started doing some work in regards to it. And over the course of the last couple of years, and this is just very new, this is newly released, in fact, is that we came up with what we refer to as a better mousetrap, and a less expensive mousetrap. It is not as large as some others, because what we have found throughout North America in ice facilities is oftentimes there's a lot of public space there. They become public friendly, but there's really never any more than 200 or 300 people within those facilities at that point in time, if they're not spectator facilities, but if in fact they're ice facilities. The people constantly are in and out of those facilities 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, but not everybody comes all at one time. So what we have done here in a very unique design is that, again, in cooperation with the National Hockey League, and also in cooperation with all of the suppliers from hockey arenas that are the preferred suppliers of the National Hockey League. They came together, they were able to then deliver, for the benefit of getting more ice facilities out there, their product at the least expensive prices that can be found any place out there. I know that you're already embarked on your own project, and I wish I could have brought this to you a year ago. That wasn't the case because it wasn't available. There have been other communities out there that have already spent a lot of money, in fact, well over $1 million in some cases, whereby they have done a lot of work in development and design, but then have realized they could do something less expensively, something that will be less expensive to maintain for a greater number of years, and so it was, again, a better mousetrap, and it ended up being a savings to them. We have in front of us, and again, it's just a solution, a possible solution. This isn't anything necessarily to do with our bringing an OHL team here and wanting a 5,000-seat facility. It's only understanding your needs here as well. I have with me here tonight that I will lead. Ball Construction is a very reputable firm here construction-wise within Ontario, and are certainly very reliable. We've worked with them through the National Hockey League at developing this, and this price here for just 2 pads of an ice surface, it's called the 300 pad. Otherwise, then there's 300 spectators that are here, not significantly more as you have already done in your plans, but that price all in architectural wise and everything is $7.3 million, and so that can be easily and quickly constructed as well. So on that note, we will leave you with only that understanding, simply because it might offer you another solution in order to find dollars for this. And they come in all different, I don't want to say all different shapes and sizes, because the sizes are very much all the same, but they have different themes to it, and those are some of the facades that have in fact been developed. Just in our final steps right here, and in closing, is that you've heard what we can do. We need to receive feedback from City Council, and we don't have long, unfortunately. We wish that we could bring this opportunity to you and say that it's been here and that you can think about it for the next year and see what can be done. Unfortunately, that's not the case, as you completely understand. We have to complete these major agreements by February the 2nd. David Branch from the Ontario Hockey League here, their transfer agreement has in fact within their constitution was the last day in December. They're already 8 days over that. We don't have a long time here to work. We talk about a design agreement that would be necessary, at least for the CHL team, the facility management, and I should point out as well, is that when we talk about the design and construction, we're not contractors. We design buildings that we know can be efficient. Whether or not you decide to go with the design build, or whether or not you decide to go to public tender, from a construction standpoint, we make sure that that can be expedited by designing the right facilities at the right amount of dollars that you can afford. And finally, of course, we need to obtain that CHL Board of Governor approval. So, Mayor Salsi, I'll ask our group if there's anything else that one would like to add, but we thank you, and we certainly open it up for any questions if you have time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. We do have a number of councils who wish to speak. I have Alderman Diodati, Alderman Iannone, Alderman Thompson.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is very exciting. I'm sure I speak for many people listening to this, especially with the idea that you come forward with money and possible solutions for some of the issues that we're dealing with right now. As you know, and as everybody knows, time is of the essence, and we've promised the community ice pads, and we're in dire need, and our current facilities are in disrepair. And this is maybe a little bit difficult, but I think whatever we're going to decide here, we need to move very quickly on, Your Worship, because obviously there's no time, and we've got designs in the process. So I put together here a little, I've created a motion I'm going to make here, that we immediately create a committee of council and senior staff to determine the possibility and probability of this process, of this project, and that we report back to this council at our next regularly scheduled meeting. And I would suggest perhaps members from the last group that was meeting, yourself, and perhaps Alderman Carriot might want to be a part of that for continuity. So I would make that motion.
A second to the motion? Alderman Wing? Okay, thank you. Any discussion to the motion? Having seen none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor?
Well, I think have some discussion.
Okay. Well, sure, that's right. Okay, we can get to that, but we have actually, you want to hold the vote till you hear from the others? Okay, we have, so let's take the vote. All those in favor then? Motion's carried. Thank you. I have Alderman Iannone and Alderman Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions, and I'm sorry,
Certainly.
I started to get confused once we started to, so I think it's Mr. Green. Okay, Mr. Green, did I hear you say that you were standing there with a proposal that would show us how to build a twin pad for $7.8 million?
7.3.
7.3? Oh, you can stay. Because I find that fascinating, because we approved 18, so if there's a way for us to do it...
This is a double ice pad facility. 2 pads.
That sounds great. The price sounds great to me. I'd like to see how we could do something like that. So if you could perhaps
Can I
pass that
submit
to our
this?
staff.
Lord Clerk, thank you very much.
That
Thank you, Mr. Green. Thank you.
That is involved construction.
Thank you. Now, your proposal for 5,000 seats, is that a standalone or is that a twin?
No, that is a standalone facility.
That's a standalone. So through you to our CAO, the proposal that they're putting towards us tonight would not add additional ice space, really, for us, in regards to keeping all our user groups on ice pads. So would we then have to build another ice surface? Because I'm just talking ice surfaces now.
Okay.
I think what Mr. Green is suggesting is we go ahead with the twin pad, which would give us the one extra ice pad that the community has requested. And in addition to that, we would look at this separate bowl. So the reality is we'd get the extra ice pad from the twin pad, and we'd obviously have access to additional ice from this as well. I don't think that's part of the arrangement, but if all the ice is not available, I'm assuming it would be made available through some kind of arrangement for the community. So it would give us actually more ice than we're currently looking at the present time.
Okay, that would be us building a twin pad for 7.3, which sounds much better than our 18. Should we be able to do it? And their 5,000 seat facility also. Okay, so I just want to understand it clearly. And we're willing to pull the user groups in and speak to them on this issue too, because I see a number of them represented here, and I want to make sure we don't get back into where we didn't consult the public. When you say site is flexible,
Yes.
are you key to a certain site? Are you geared towards? You mentioned our downtown. Do you have a site in mind? Because I didn't hear that tonight.
No, you didn't. And nor are we here to tell City Council where your land is or where your site should be. You know your needs. What we understand is that we know the hockey business, we know the sports and entertainment facility business, the food and beverage business. Where you decide to put it is that we know one thing for sure. It's going to be a huge success. So if it can best be served in your community, in the downtown core for revitalization purposes, then that's what, then absolutely. However, if it's best served being out on a vacant piece of land where you see future expansion for your city, this will be the major anchor once again, because once this facility is built, you will see growth and rejuvenation like you haven't seen before, created through this. And I can only speak on that because we've been in the business so long. At the mayor's conference in Cleveland some years ago, President Bill Clinton spoke, and he said, and he addressed the mayors in America, he said, one thing I know for sure is that when it comes to revitalization of a community, that nothing that we have seen in government has such a major impact as that of a multi-use sports and entertainment facilities. And he was referring, of course, to what had happened in downtown Cleveland, which had a lot of vacant stores, and there was really failing. So, again, that's what we do know, is that it can work in any place that you have it, unless you told me that was so far out that it didn't have the infrastructure to support it, get to it easily enough, and then we would say that's not a good site.
I'm extremely thrilled to see a developer come before us, offering cash and telling a municipality they can decide, and not asking us for multitudes of millions of dollars. That makes me very happy. I'll save my questions till then.
Good, thank you very much. Alderman Thompson?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's extremely impressive to see people who come to the municipality with a positive presentation and obviously the ability to move forward. I'm very much in favor of the motion to set up a committee as quickly as possible, and I think we should ask for any volunteers that wish to sit on that would like to be involved to try to expedite this thing. It's nice to see Mr. Green and Mr. Murray Benyon, who John McDonald and I worked for I don't know how many years to try to get a multi-purpose facility, and I'm glad, although I'm very pleased to hear about the possibility of ice space available for the users as quickly as possible at a reasonable rate. But also, I've always had the dream of having a multi-purpose facility here in this community that can be utilized not only for hockey, but boxing and basketball, entertainment. And I hope that when this gets referred to staff, that they're going to look into all aspects. Certainly, one of the major issues is the financial aspect, but to look at what we're doing with the convention facility, whether there's a common approach to having these adjacent and to utilize a convention center with a trade fair when the ice rink is not being utilized, because I think the convention center is moving along quite well and could be a distinct possibility after only about 35 years of working on it. So I'm extremely pleased and also impressed by the fact that Mr. Branch is here. Nothing happens with OHL hockey unless Mr. Branch, I got tired of calling him and talking to him, and he had the same line each time. You have to have 6,500 seating. I'm glad it's reduced to 5,500 now. You have to have local ownership, and you have to have somebody who's going to buy the franchise. This looks like it's a package. Obviously, I'm impressed that you're here today, Mr. Branch, because that puts the seal of approval on this, with this thing moving ahead. I think everybody is entirely frustrated with the developments over the past year and a half or so, up and down. Everybody wants to see something happen, and this looks like an extremely positive presentation and an opportunity, and I think that the committee has their work cut out for them, but it looks like we have something to work with, and we look forward to making things happen.
Thank you very much. Alderman Thompson, we have had the opportunity, as you know, about some 2.5 or 3 years ago to visit the John Labatt Center. I think Alderman Diodati was with us, and Alderman Rocco and Alderman Ropati at that time. And since that time, we've had a meeting with the Mayor of London just a few months later, and we saw what it did to the downtown core of London. Very exciting proposal, and I think your comments are certainly appropriate with respect to any synergies that may exist, and hopefully we'll ask for volunteers from council in a moment, but we can be creative and think outside the box possibly to see what synergies might exist and what how this may be a catalyst in some form of potential development. So I think that's something that the committee can certainly get their teeth into. A lot of work to be done, obviously, by January 22nd. I do appreciate as well, Mr. Branch, your attendance, and more so bringing the buyer, Mr. Tom Vitoff, and his family are well established in Canada as business people, and acknowledged, I think, internationally. So we believe we have a credible combination here. Certainly the experience that we've seen with SCI and your professional team, your professional presentation are certainly a tribute to what you've got to offer us. So we appreciate that, and thank you as well. I have other speakers again, Alderman Wing, Alderman Carrio, and Alderman Maves.
Thank you. I just want to say this was a very impressive presentation. I'm really happy with the group we see assembled here tonight. I think we're seeing a group of companies with solid professional experience, a good track record, and I have for a long time wanted to see a multi-purpose sports and entertainment complex come to the city. I think that is something that will truly be for all of the citizens of this city, and that's something we need, and I would be really happy to see this come about.
Good, thank you. I have Alderman Carrio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly would like to be a participant on the committee if council was council's wishes. I'm anxious to get into the nuts and bolts of the deal, of the business plan, and then save my comments for council when we get into the nuts and bolts. I'm sure we're not here to discuss all of that tonight, but glad to report back to council if I'm involved in that committee.
Thank you. Alderman Mays, thank you.
Yes, Your Worship. I just have one question for these gentlemen. I noticed on a lot of the facilities, Simons, Labatt's, Rexall, Rico, Coach USA, looks like some of these people have sponsored some of these buildings, put some money into them. Any idea is how we can go about this particular situation? Obviously, it's working in other cities. Will it work in Niagara Falls? Mm-hmm. Can we find a sponsor?
Certainly.
Yeah, it's almost the norm now that a facility has a naming rights partner, and we would strongly recommend that to the city. It's a way of helping defray the costs, and the amount of the sponsorship really is dependent on the available sponsors, but we would feel comfortable in the range of $150,000 to $300,000 per year would be the type of starting point for naming rights for this type of facility. So that goes a long way to helping reduce your costs.
Thank you. I have Alderman Pietrangelo.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too want to thank the gentleman for coming down tonight. I think that we have a great bunch of people that are assembled here, and they're very credible in what they do. Your Worship, there's no doubt that a multi-purpose facility such as this one would be a huge economic catalyst for our business community, and it would also bring events that the people of Niagara Falls have never seen before, and probably never would see with the building that we were proposing to build. I do have a couple of questions, though. I guess first I'll ask Mr. Green. I noticed in one of your slides you talked about the facility being proposed as having a price tag of between $35 and $40 million, and then you said that you would have private investment of up to $5 million. Now, can I take that as you might have $5 million, or you could have more than $5 million? Perhaps I can get a bit of clarity.
Yeah.
Perhaps I should, we are saying that we have up to $5 million from the private sector money, as Roy had pointed out.
The other point I just wanted to clarify is you also talked about a long-term deal. Now, that would be a long-term deal with the actual team, the OHL team, staying in Niagara Falls. I guess perhaps my interpretation of long-term might be different than yours. My long-term deal would be probably 50 years, but I don't know.
Well, Mr. Branch can speak to this as well, but usually when these long-term leases are negotiated with the city, then we're dealing with leases that are typically 20-year leases, and that's what is considered to be a long-term lease.
Okay.
They match with the finance, exactly.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. I'm glad to clarify that. I have one further question, actually, and it would be of Mr. Branch.
Good, thank you. Mr. Branch?
Commissioner Branch, thank you very much for coming to our city tonight. It's nice to see you in person, and as Alderman Thompson has stated, if we do move forward, obviously having you here would seal the deal. In the past, we've had 2 stints of the Niagara Falls Flyers, and then followed that up with one stint, I guess, of the Niagara Falls Thunder. When the team left, I guess there was, much speculation, and people still believe that the city of Niagara Falls could not support the OHL team that was here. I was wondering perhaps if you could shed some light in what you know to be the reason why the team left here, and are we correct in our assumption of that?
Well, as I recall, in the only time that a team left Niagara Falls that I'm somewhat familiar with would be the last time. I wasn't involved with the league previously, or I just started, actually, I guess, when I went to North Bay. But you're talking about when Niagara Falls went to Erie, and my recollection of that was, first of all, there had been an East Coast Hockey League team in Erie, Pennsylvania, for a number of years, and the owner decided to sell his franchise and move it elsewhere. And the approach was made through a contact with the existing owner of the Niagara Falls team at that time that, this is a great hockey community in Erie, Pennsylvania. The facility, was certainly at that time, would have been in the top third in terms of amenities and the like in the OHL, and would you be interested? And what I felt motivated it was purely more a facility issue than anything else. It wasn't about lack of interest or support. It was more around facility and making a move based on that as being the key part of it. And certainly that's how I would call it. Okay.
I guess hearing that response, Your Worship, I guess it can give us some comfort in knowing that, having the commissioner again of the OHL here would basically tell us that he believes that the city of Niagara Falls and its citizens and the population around us could support a team. So it's nice to see him here.
Great to hear that. Thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner. We appreciate that comment. Obviously, your name has been bandied around a lot in the last several months in the area, and it's nice to have your presence with us tonight for that purpose. We appreciate it. Members of the council, it's going to be an opportunity. I'm sorry, Alderman Karen. Just go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I always go back to dollars. And, I'm a bargain fanatic, and when I see a sale that says up to $20, and I get there and it's $1 up to 20, I get a little irritated. So when I hear that you will be putting toward up to $5 million, I would happily like to see the entire $5 million. So are we talking 1.5, 3.5, $5 million? How does it determine up to what amount?
Should this come to fruition, it'll be $5 million. It'll be in exchange for revenue streams over a period of time by Mr. Bitoff.
Sounds much better to me. Thank you.
And there'll be very specific revenue streams that will be tied to Mr. Bitoff over a period of time, getting his money back.
It is $5 million.
$5 million.
Right. Appreciate that. Members of the council, we have an opportunity to roll up our sleeves and to really be creative, to investigate, and maybe to look at all potential here. We have, I think, very credible presenters and an opportunity. You've seen certainly some of the results of their work, and obviously you have some idea of what they're capable of doing. I really think it's going to be exciting in the next 3 weeks. It's a lot of work to get this underway, but I think at this point I'd like to ask for any volunteers who'd like to sit on that committee with senior staff. So if we can have a show of hands of those council members who'd like to sit on. Alderman Thompson, Alderman Carrio, Alderman Peterangelo, and Alderman Wing, and Alderman Diodati. That's great. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Gentlemen, it's very exciting. Thank you so much. We appreciate your presence this evening. We're pleased to meet in short order. And Mr. Bitoff, thank you again for attending to confirm your purchase as well. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you much. It's ready. Thank you very much. Wayne, Vince, Victor, Jim, and Janice, and myself. We're going to call meeting right away. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks so much. Thank you. Okay. Members of council, we'd like to continue out the meeting if we could. Okay. Very good. Okay. Let's just say. Okay, there we go. Sorry. No, that's okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask the gallery to go to the foyer, please. Thank you very much. We'll reconvene the meeting. At this time, I'd like to take an opportunity to acknowledge the presence of one of our newest regional councillors, Mrs. Barbara Green. Barbara, welcome. She's attending, Greenwood, I'm sorry, she's attending this evening. She just has an opportunity to attend her first council meeting, so thank you. You're welcome to be here anytime. We appreciate your attendance. Also, I have a few notes to make, comments to make to council this evening. We are certainly pleased to hear about the safe arrival of our council secretary's new baby. You may be aware that Teresa and Renee became the first-time parents on November 24th with the arrival of Luca Matteo Fabro. So our congratulations go to Teresa and Renee Fabro. Also, we'd like to regret to announce the passing over the holidays of Mr. Boyle, father to Peggy Boyle, who works in our planning department. I understand that Alderman Ionone is putting together a council team to compete in the Big Brothers Big Sisters Trivia Night on Friday, January 26th. So, Alderman Ionone, have you got enough members for your team yet?
Yeah, I know. Look at the smug look on Mr. Ayerfita, the reigning champion's face, because he did challenge council.
Yes, I think he feels confident.
Okay. You know, I'm not going there. But I will say that I did put out an email. So far, we have Alderman Fisher, Alderman Carrio, Alderman Wing, Alderman Pietrangelo, and myself. I know Alderman Carrio did respond that he joined because I needed all the help that I could get. And so we are looking for 2 more council members. It is up to a maximum of 8. I know you can't attend that night.
Bishop Gala that evening, unfortunately.
So for those who haven't responded, there still is 2 more places, and our city clerk has challenged us, and he cannot win.
Good.
Yeah, are blackberries allowed in this competition?
They're not allowed.
Can we Google?
Mr. Clerk? He doesn't know. Anyway, we certainly will put up a challenge, and it's nice that we can get a team together. Also, I should just advise the members of the public that the Stamford Centre Firemen's Association is having their annual tree burning event this Sunday at Firemen's Park. It'll be January 14th from 2 to 5 p.m. There will be activities for the children, and hot chocolate and other refreshments will be served. So we'll have a giant bonfire as well. So that fire, I think, is set to begin around 4. So if you can get there a little early, you can enjoy some of the festivities. Also, to advise you to mark your calendars and to plan to attend the 18th Annual Sports Wall of Fame induction ceremony at the Niagara Falls Arena on Sunday, January 21st, beginning at 2 p.m. As many deserving members of our community are honored for their contributions to our city as well. And despite some rather inclement weather recently, the New Year's Eve party in Queen Victoria Park was a great success. It was easy to see that committed fans certainly are not scared away by a little rain. So we're very pleased to offer our congratulations to Sarah Woods at the Niagara Parks Commission, also to Serge Felicetti from our staff here at City Hall for their work in making this such a success. Special thanks go out to major sponsors from that evening, the Niagara Parks Commission, City of Niagara Falls, through our OPG funds that were granted to us earlier this year, or last year, the Fallsview Tourist Area, the Clifton Hill Tourist Area, the Victoria Avenue Tourist Area, and the Ontario Lottery Gaming Corporation, and the Fallsview Casino. And I understand from talking to people in the industry, such as Alderman Vince Carrio, it was a very successful weekend for commerce and trade in the city. And Mr. Carrio, Alderman Carrio, maybe you'd like to elaborate as well to say how pleased if you'd express your satisfaction with the event and the attendance we had over New Year's holiday.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I had an opportunity to talk to many of my peers in the industry, and they were very happy with the evening. As a matter of fact, it was one of the best New Year's attendance records that we've had in a long time. The show went on despite the downpours of rain. The performers were fabulous, and looking forward to doing it again, Your Worship.
Great to hear. So it's nice to hear that our partners all enjoyed the benefits of the event, and I think we had certainly great exposure on TV, some hour-and-a-half production, so I think we can rival even Toronto, and we may want to issue a challenge to them next year for a competition of who can probably put up a better New Year's Eve party. So thank you again. I appreciate hearing the comments. The next order of business, members of council, I should ask the clerk, are there any additional items for council's consideration?
Just a little clarification on the bylaws. The order of the bylaws is reflected on the last page in your handouts. A slight change for the order between the first two bylaws, so it's the bylaw list on the very end page tonight that we will be dealing with.
Okay, members of council, we have a number of bylaws to pass this evening. Can I have a motion to introduce the bylaws? The bylaws be given a first reading. Alderman Thompson, seconded by Alderman Fisher. You've seen, I've got a motion to seconder. You've heard the motion. Any comments or questions? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried.
Bylaws 2007-01 to 2007-04 read a first time.
I have a motion to give the bylaws a second and third reading. Alderman Peter Angelo, second by Alderman Diodati. You've heard the motion. Any further questions or comments? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Bylaws 2007-01 to 2007-04 read a second and third time and passed.
Thank you very much. Is there any new business for us this evening? I have a number of councilmen, actually Alderman Iononi, Alderman Diodati, Alderman Wing, Alderman Thompson, and Alderman Fisher, and Alderman Carrio. Thank you.
Wow, can you tell we haven't met for a while, can't you? Well, Mr. Mayor, I think it's good to highlight that we just passed a bylaw that put bonusing dollars into an arena. So I think that's extremely important to highlight. I think considering the presentation that we just had earlier, that my motion is quite apropos. I'm going to move, Mr. Mayor, that the city's commitment to the downtown revitalization be limited to a maximum of $12 million for necessary improvements to the existing infrastructure following the short to long-term timelines in our CIP. And that the $5.6 million from the sale of the Montrose Road property that Council has already approved for the use of revitalization be directed instead toward the general capital works, and that the city continue to pursue equal funding for downtown revitalization from the superior levels of government.
We have a motion and a seconder. Any discussion on the motion? Alderman Diodati.
Thank you, Worship. By being consistent, I'm not going to support the motion. I think we're making a decision too quick without all the information, especially given the fact that we have an opportunity here tonight with a big facility that could locate anywhere in the city, including potentially downtown. And I think at this point, without hearing back from this, I mean, we're talking 2 weeks away for a report back from the subcommittee on what we're going to do and what our proposal is going to be, and I think it would be too short-sighted. And as well, it was ironic that today I was in the Price Club in St. Catharines, and I was approached by a Niagara Falls resident, and they were saying, you know, are we going to be doing this project? Is it going to happen? And it was ironic that we were in Price Club, which should have been located in Niagara Falls. Unfortunately, it's not. And I think that we're going to be, I don't think there's anything to be gained by making that decision at this point of the game, so I'll vote against it.
Okay. Alderman Carrio. Alderman...
Your Worship, I'm going to support the motion. It's basically the motion that I put on the floor of this council way back when, that we limit our spending to $12 million on the downtown and encourage the other levels of government to support the downtown project. Your Worship, we sat here and was told by our city manager that the consultants that we're paying $6,000-7,000 per month to give us advice on how to go about getting money from other levels of government, Mr. Mayor, they were telling us that it would be easier for them or better for them if we did not look like we had $36 million to spend on the downtown project, that we had $10 or $12 million to spend, and we needed to raise the other 20-some-odd million dollars in order for the project to proceed. I also didn't agree with earmarking that money for the Montrose Road site and for having that money allocated to the downtown. I thought that money was to be used for other things. I'd like to see it freed up, put into our capital budget or into the general budget. So I think it's a good motion, Your Worship. It was one that I thought was worth supporting back then, and I think we might be able to get it passed today.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson. I'm sorry, we have a comment from the clerk first.
just to be strictly procedural, I think in essence you have to pass two motions. You have to pass a reconsideration followed by the motion. Because on the books, you've committed, or you've identified, you haven't committed, you've identified those monies.
Yes, Alderman Iannone?
You know, he gets paid to be the clerk, but A, it's an entirely different motion, and B, this is a new council. 3 members of your council got defeated. So I'm not bringing it back to the same council. We're bringing it back to a new council, and it's entirely different than the motion I put on the floor the night it was defeated.
Mr. Clerk?
I'm not going to argue that point, but what I will say is that you will end up passing a motion that contradicts or conflicts with a motion previously passed by a duly elected council. It's really just an extra step. Pass the reconsideration and then do the motion.
Second.
Okay, we have that motion on the floor. Let's entertain that motion first, and I do have Alderman Thompson who wants to speak. So all those in favor of the reconsideration, raise your hands, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Opposed? 1. Motion's carried.
And my motion's recorded.
Okay, fine. We'll get that in a minute. Alderman Thompson?
Yeah, I have a little problem with the motion. There are 3 new members of council here. We have not had the opportunity, like the rest of the council, to hear all of the presentations, to study all of the reports that have been prepared over the last little while. But I think it's evident from the last election, the major item that the public is concerned about is the budget. And we have another opportunity here tonight to look at, and I would feel very comfortable if the motion was that we eliminate any dollars. I don't know whether I can support $11 million for the downtown. I don't know. I don't know whether that's even feasible with the budget dilemma that we have. We have all kinds of challenges that are coming on stream, which we'll probably hear next week and have the opportunity to talk about. We don't have the opportunity to have an increase in our assessment, which used to save us every year with the provincial government freezing assessment. There's no extra dollars coming on stream, and to just come out and say up to $11 million gives me a little concern. I would just say that we defer any amount until we have further discussion on the budget and we know where we stand.
Yes. I think it's a fair comment, Alderman Thompson, and I can appreciate your point. We do have, one moment please, we do have a letter from the minister, David Kaplan, just confirming the fact that he has expressed an interest in the project. We don't have a commitment yet. We have a lot of questions as members of council, as you know, that are yet to be answered. We do have 3 members of council who are new to the issue, and they haven't had the benefit of even reviewing a budget matter at this point. We have, I know our CAO, a number of questions that the staff is working towards answering for this council before we get to a decision making, whether it's yes or no. So I think that the council is still yet to be informed of the findings that staff is working on. So that's something else to consider. Yes, Mr. Clerk?
Related to that, and in keeping with what Alderman Thompson said, there has been some discussion at a staff level about doing a kind of educational session on what happened to date with regard to the downtown for the new councillors, so they do get up to speed and can make informed decisions.
Yes. Alderman Iannone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have to pull out newspaper article after newspaper article after ad to clarify anybody's position here in regards to additional debt and the $36 million and who wouldn't support it and who would. Just to clarify Alderman Thompson's point, the reason I did to up to $12 million and over the short to long term time limits in the CIP, because that's what the huge debate was when the last council voted on it. The up to $12 million on needed infrastructure, which was the point that Alderman Wing added to my motion the last time, because we don't want to be doing things. I think I had an opportunity to speak to yourself on that issue as to what a council of the day had invested years ago into the downtown that hadn't spurned redevelopment. So the CIP we passed, I think, was sound, and I think had a great basis to it, but I also don't think it said spend $36 million in 2 years of public money. That's why I put the up to 12 years, because there is a long-term up to $12 million with the lifespan of the CIP, because some of the long-term, short-term to long-term was 5 to 20 years. So, I mean, I'm not committing that, but I'm saying it will be to the discretion of this council, but I want the rest of it off the books.
You know,
I think we have...
And I appreciate your
Thank
intent,
you.
Alderman Ioannoni. I understand what you're saying. However, you know, even tonight with the presentation we had this evening, if we were to locate this facility downtown, you might let your imagination run a bit. You might be able to combine somehow the investment or save some money possibly in terms of the expenditure by looking at some synergies that may exist between this facility being located downtown. But so there's a lot of questions I think that are yet to be answered. But you have a right to make your motion. You did, and I appreciate your comments.
Well, to those points, because I didn't realize you'd be rebutting it, we did knock on tens of thousands of doors, and I'm pretty crystal clear that the message on the doors were, I don't care what you're putting down there, don't use $36 million of our money to do it. So I'm really clear what the message was to us while we campaigned. And I think this is a great opportunity for a multi-purpose center, but it shouldn't be entirely on the backs of the residents. And if I understood Mr. Green, this is their facility on top of one we have to build, our twin pad. So we're looking at a sound opportunity here. And just to point out something else, I think it was last January that Mr. Lickman first came to this council, and we asked him the same questions that our CAO told me last Friday still aren't answered. So I don't know how long you want to give him, and I think at one point I said, do we give him a time limit? He's long past his time limit. And November 13th told you exactly what people want with this project.
Okay. Alderman Wade?
I'd just like to point out as well, this up to a maximum of $12 million is for the public realm improvements. That's in addition to the approximately $7 million in grants and loans and other CIP initiatives that are intended to spur private investment. So we're still talking about $19 million. And, you know, if we end up with an arena complex in the downtown will revitalize itself in this case. What this is for is if we have necessary improvements to the public realm. And we're not talking about building a couple of parking garages or anything like that. This is what's out there already. If we need the sewers replaced, then let's replace the sewers if that makes our downtown more viable. But this is not saying we're committing $12 million, it's saying we're committing up to $12 million, and it is in addition to those CIP monies, which we are still committed to as well.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
Well, I hope nobody's thinking about putting new sewers in the downtown. And one of my problems is the fact that in 1980, we spent $12 million in the downtown. All new sewer, all new water, all new roads, all new sidewalks, street lamps. And now, 20 years later, they're not good enough for the developer that was coming in to discuss. And so there's no new dollars going to be spent on sewer and water. The only problem is I'm not going to commit to anything at this point. I want to support the motion. I certainly want to free up the $6 million. And if there's some wording you can put forward that it makes no commitment with respect to the dollars at this point, then I don't have a problem with it. But it's obvious to me that this whole issue has to be rehashed, rediscussed, and we have to see a serious commitment from the people who are making the proposal.
Yes, Alderman Pietrangelo and then Alderman Ioannoni. Okay.
Just to that point, and through you to Alderman Thompson,
you can call me
Councillor Thompson. Anything that's going to be spent is going to come to us anyway, but what I do want to make sure is we don't mess with Mr. McNaughton, who we're paying $6,000 for, and that will be in my next motion, by the way, our spending of Mr. McNaughton. But Mr. McNaughton said, if you're going to have any leverage going to the government, try to have some equal amount of leverage. If we were looking at $36 million of spending and we're going to two levels looking for $12 million each, I wanted to see that we had some sort of hook in there to at least get the $12 million or up to $12 million from each levels of government. And if I'm not mistaken, Alderman Carrio hit on this point, the meeting that we had that vote, that if we had those monies, then we would be able to have more leverage with the levels of government. Actually, Alderman Diodati just said, leave it at the $12 million, and if we can work towards the other levels of government, and I'll support your motion, that would take us unanimously towards getting funding from other levels of government. So I would really like to see that.
Okay, Alderman Pietrangelo?
Yeah, Your Worship, I will definitely support the motion. In relation to a couple people's comments, though, I have some comments, too, that really, I mean, we're talking about debt here, would affect the debt. One of my comments is in relation to, we're just talking about an OHL facility coming here, and all of a sudden we're talking about it going downtown. I'm wondering where people would get the notion that it would go downtown from.
No, I suggested to you that we might have some synergies, but we heard Mr. Green say it could go downtown, it could go wherever we have land available. He wasn't proposing any particular location. I did say to you that possibility of the contribution that we're talking about making the project viable, if it were to go downtown and we were to limit some other expenses downtown by bringing it there, might be something that the committee would consider in the next couple weeks in the deliberation. So that was the reference that we made there.
Okay, I just want to get some numbers clear then, I guess through yourself to Mr. McDonald. Mr. McDonald, if the facility were to go downtown, would the city have an idea of where it would be placed?
I don't even know if that's fair to ask, but you can try to answer that. Do we know yet?
Yeah, I've talked to Mr. Green, and he's suggested the downtown is the concept of it. The only area that I've heard suggested by a couple sources is around where the transit area is, in that location somewhere. But I don't think anybody's gotten serious in terms of looking at that. But that's the area that I've been hearing bounced around.
And I think what I'm trying to get a handle on, Your Worship, is, I mean, if the arena ends up going downtown, that would obviously obligate us to certain costs that we would have to spend downtown. Am I correct, Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, I think the concept that was suggested to me was that assuming the downtown was going to happen, assuming there were parking garages, then if an arena was built downtown, it could take advantage of those parking garages and so on. But as suggested, that's a pretty big leap in that regard. So, but I think that was, and it was just ideas being thrown around, but it was based on that concept.
I think, Alderman, that's fair to say that if you were to look at combining the synergies that Alderman Diodati referred to, maybe that we talked about, was the idea that if you could save maybe the capital expenditure on the parking facility, or you could combine that with a development and even using a wall or a facility that would accommodate some of the development costs, it might defray. So we haven't heard enough information yet, and I hope that the discussion that this council will have, or the committee will have, will enable us to kind of roll up our sleeves and be very creative to see how we could make it work, if it's going to be there or somewhere else, and how it could be possible. So hopefully you can give some input in that regard.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. And members of council, I'd like to make comment before we vote. I just want to say the minister did express interest in the last visit we had with him back in October, and he sent a letter through. I think that the clerk's office may have, have you received that yet to circulate it? It would be on the 22nd agenda, maybe. Minister Kaplan sent a letter just saying that he appreciated the fact we'd updated him with a briefing, but we have no plan to show the ministry yet, or any other level of the government, because we're still trying to formulate this information to supply to those levels of government. Mr. McDonald, as far as the CO goes, you have staff working on a number of responses that you need yet. Mr. Lichtman and I did explain to him the need. I talked to him about 2 weeks before Christmas and said we'd like to have answers. The council is very concerned. You'd like to have answers to the questions that are being posed to staff, so we can decide whether we're going to proceed with this development. So, Mr. McDonald, can you tell us anything further as to where we are?
Yes, Your Worship. We have a consultant, as you know, working on putting together basically a business case that would really look at the downtown redevelopment, and particularly our investment and what kind of return we might get on the investment, as well as the marketing issues. We expect to have that work finished by the end of January, and we'll bring it back as soon as that's available.
Okay. Alderman Diodati?
Thank you, Worship. It's obvious, I can tell when I'm outnumbered, and I'm not going to get beat up over this, but what I will say is, when you got lemon, you make lemonade, and I think this is a reasonable option given the circumstances that we commit our $12 million, as Alderman Iononi has put forward, and then we go after, as we know, politically, political decisions are going to be made. It's a provincial election upcoming this November. Of course, the province, with an election year, are probably more inclined to want to support a viable proposal. Also, having spoken last year with Minister Nicholson, he said that we are 8 times more likely to get federal money if we get provincial money committed. So if we've got our third committed here municipally, and if we can, given it's an election year, provincially commit a third, and I'd say considering the fact that our local MP is as high a position as he is with the federal government, I'd say it certainly doesn't hurt our chances of getting downtown money. And when you look at our opportunity, I think we've got a great opportunity before us. I mean, just hypothetically, if we built it downtown, hypothetically, I mean, we've got our bus station, we've got a train station for people coming out of town. We're fighting for GO service. We're trying to redevelop downtown. We've got a group that's already dropped somewhere in the area of $20 million in acquisitions. We've got Great Wolf Lodge going on down there. We've got a lot of opportunities. I mean, this could be coming together in a real nice way. And when I look at the John Labatt Center in London, I lived there for a number of years, and having toured the facility and what's happened there since I lived there, it's developed, it's had something of a renaissance, and it's pretty exciting to see. And with all the things that's going on, I will support this motion.
I appreciate your comments, Alderman, because I think that's what we talked about in terms of the possibility of the synergy and that might happen. So hopefully the committee can get into that and investigate that as a potential. And I appreciate what council's trying to do in respect to limitations. I think we did hear what Alderman Iannone is saying and what we saw in the last election. I think we all agree that we're trying to spend taxpayers' money wisely, but not that we ever committed the $36 million of taxpayers' money. You may recall during our budget deliberations last at corporate services that we talked about limiting the amounts. We talked about $36 million, limiting our investment to 12, and showing other revenues at the other side of the coin of $24 million. And that was some discussions that we had at that time. But Alderman Maves?
Just as far as the motion was concerned, I think Alderman Iannone mentioned that it was up to $12 million, or was it $12 million? Maximum. So it could be $1, or it could be $1,000. No problem supporting the motion.
Okay. Could you repeat the motion, Alderman Iannone, please?
Thank you. That was good. I like that. The motion is that the city's commitment to downtown revitalization be limited to up to a maximum of $12 million for necessary improvements to the existing infrastructure following the short to long-term timelines in our CIP. That the $5.6 million from the sale of the Montrose property that council has already approved for the use in revitalization be directed instead toward the general capital works, and that the city continue to pursue equal funding for downtown revitalization from the superior levels of government.
Okay, could you forward that to the clerk, please? And
yeah, I'll give it to you later. I've written my notes all over this piece of paper, so I'm going to keep my notes.
And we have a seconder, Alderman Wing, is that correct?
And I'd like that recorded.
Okay, recorded vote. Yes, Alderman Thompson.
I'm wondering, under the circumstances with the presentation we made tonight, when the $5.6 million, it goes into general funds, it could be redirected someplace else, could it not?
Yeah, we have it there.
Okay.
We have it there. And in fact, there'll be a little more because we have some additional lands that there'll be almost $8 million, is that correct?
Yeah, that deal is not resolved. There was another $1.5 million or so we could net from that.
So we could have an additional $1.5 million to add to that.
And that, by directing it into the general capital works, that could be used for perhaps this new arena project or roads, sewers, waters, which we all said was a priority, but it will certainly be directed to something that we would have more control over than leaving it in that account designated for downtown. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Clerk.
Okay, recorded vote, Alderman Diodati. Alderman Fisher.
4.
Alderman Iannone.
4.
Alderman Carrio.
4.
Alderman Maves.
4.
Alderman Peter Angelo.
4.
Alderman Thompson.
Yes.
Alderman Wing.
4.
Mayor Salty.
4.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Okay. The next... Yes, okay. Alderman Diodati, new business?
Thank you, Worship. Two bits of information here. One, I received my package from Enbridge. For those in the community that are struggling for their financial commitments, specifically their natural gas bills, the Enbridge has a winter warmth fund where they can assist. That is administered through Project Share, I believe. So just to direct anybody at home that's having problems this winter. Hopefully it's been a warmer winter, not as bad as in the past, but they do have that opportunity. That was one. And the second thing, I would make a motion, Your Worship, that we send an official congratulatory letter to Rob Nicholson, being appointed the Minister of Justice, the Attorney General of Canada, and as well to another Niagara Falls homegrown person, Minister Peter Van Loan, who was also born in Niagara Falls. It's a nice day in federal government when you've got two homegrown people in senior cabinet, and I'd say I can't think of a better time for Niagara Falls to go looking for some extra support. So I would make that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion, seconded by Alderman Wing. Actually, we're in the process of just having that done today, so I appreciate that. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. We'll follow through with that. Alderman Pietrangelo? No? Okay. I'm sorry. Alderman Thompson?
Yes, thank you. Earlier this evening, we spent an hour and a half, 2 hours talking about conflict of interest, and had an expert telling us about the legislation that exists. I wonder if, with the difficulties involved in getting a lawyer who is a professional and who is versed on the conflict of interest legislation, and the number of people who are at the Department of Municipal Affairs, if the clerk could prepare a resolution to send to the government and to our Member of Parliament and appropriate municipalities, asking that the Department of Municipal Affairs set up a section where councillors could get conflict of interest information by calling a appropriate number at the government, rather than trying to get private solicitors who may not be well versed in the legislation. They have solicitors there already. All they need is that somebody be designated, and also that in a report back to us we have confirmation that the council has appropriate errors and omissions for insurance in the case there is any legal action with respect to that.
So you're making that form of motion? Yes. And the seconder to the motion, Alderman Fisher? Any discussion about that? Having seen none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. And members of council, you might be advised, you may have read in a recent email that AMO is having some workshops, I believe, with regard to the Municipal Act and the Municipal Act. I think our closest location is in Hamilton on, I believe it's February 9th. So I think that's open. It's being put on by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. I know that it would be welcome, Mr. Clerk.
Yeah, we'll be getting some information out to the councillors on that in the coming days.
Thank you. Appreciate that, if you would. Okay, Alderman Fisher.
Thank you. Recently, our city fire chief left the city to take up a very important role in Ontario Fire Marshal. We now need to fill this important role within our city, which deals with public safety. A number of weeks ago, I suggested to my fellow councillors that we form a committee of at least 3 councillors who, along with input from our Human Resource Department, will select a new chief. After speaking to many of my council colleagues, I believe there is a consensus amongst us to not only form this committee, but to also include the dealings with and approving all new hires that the city makes. As the body which is ultimately accountable to the taxpayers of this city, I feel this is the most productive and prudent way to proceed, and is the best way to ensure transparency here at City Hall. We all talk about transparency. By way of future and further background, many cities have had this type of committee, and it's surprising that we do not, because, in fact, many of you and staff may recall that Niagara Falls did have a similar committee, which did what I am proposing. In order to move forward as an accountable and transparent government who operates in the public's best interest, we must make changes to the way we do business. I feel that my proposal does just that. Therefore, I would like to ask my colleagues' support for the following motion. And my motion is, as a new Human Resource Committee be created, which will be involved in all aspects of the human resources in the municipality of the City of Niagara Falls. This includes being responsible and for approving all new staffing hires by the City of Niagara Falls. This committee should consist of no less than 3 council members and also city staff, no more than 3. And that is my motion.
That's your motion, is it? Okay. The seconder, Alderman Iannone. Discussion? Alderman Thompson?
Yes, thank you. In 1992, there was no committee system previous to that, and when I came into office at that particular time, we set up the committee system, mainly as it exists today, with the addition of a Human Resources Committee. I think there's a responsibility on the part of the elected people to be responsible for the decision-making that goes on in the municipality. And I think human resources is a very important aspect of that. I have a little different opinion. I'm sure that Alderman Fisher doesn't want to be involved in every hiring, but there are certainly senior department heads and many issues in human resources that the council should be involved in at that level and having input before reports come in front of this council. I think it's an appropriate and an idea that is not new, but shows that the council is taking responsibility as elected people to have input in the operation of City Hall. I think that the appropriate motion would be to approve the idea of the committee, which I support, but also refer it to staff to come back with terms of reference on how this should be really set up. There is an appropriate way of doing it, and we certainly don't want to be, I certainly don't want to be involved in every hire, but if there is a major increase in the staff, which is going to impact the budget, I think that would certainly be the responsibility of the committee. So I think it's a positive move, and commend Alderman Fisher for bringing it forward.
Thank you, Alderman Thompson. Mr. Clerk would like to make a comment. Mr. Yafida, if you want to just...
Well, Mr. Thompson brings up a good point, and in October 2004, the council of the day did pass a motion that when all future committees are formed, that a terms of reference be developed to ensure that there is an appropriateness for the committee. So I would strongly encourage that as far as the motion.
Thank you. Alderman Iannone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support the motion also. I think it's a fantastic idea. And just to reiterate, in June 1999 was when that committee ceased to exist. Alderman Cummings chaired that committee, and when he passed away, I was appointed in June 99. And of all the committees that he sat on that I stepped in, because you can't replace Alderman Cummings, but that I stepped into, that was the only committee that I was not directed to sit back on, and it never went forth after that. I think the Municipal Act states that councils need to vote on certain members of senior staff. I think our CAO, our Chief Financial Officer, certainly our Fire Chief. There's a number of them under the Municipal Act that should come to council anyway. The terms of reference are a great idea, and I will say that I think that would take us back to this is who controls the situation. And while I don't want to micromanage, I certainly don't want to be the end stage. So I don't want to sit on the committee, but I certainly support you striking one.
Well, I appreciate your comment. We do have Alderman Wing, and I think Mr. McDonald would like to make a comment. So, Alderman Wing?
Yes, I think I'd be more comfortable this evening if we had staff reporting back on possible terms of reference. So if that suggestion can be accepted as a friendly amendment, I think I'd be more comfortable.
Thank you. I agree. I was going to suggest that, but let's let Mr. McDonald make a comment, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of things. I agree as well, and we've decided that all committees should have terms of reference. I just want to clarify a couple of things. The current policy and the current practice is that there is no new staff added to the complement in the City of Niagara Falls without approval from council. And you'll recall that we typically go in camera and we point out that if this is a new staff increasing the complement, the council must approve it. So no staff are hired adding to the complement without council's approval directly. In relation to senior positions, I don't remember the terms of reference if there was one for an HR committee, and I know other people have HR committees. What I do know is that we have a bylaw in the City of Niagara Falls, separate from the fact of increasing complement, which is really a policy decision on behalf of the council, a policy to increase the level of service and therefore increase the number of staff. When it comes to hiring staff, we do have a bylaw in place, actually, and it's been in existence since at least 1966, that really talks to the role of the administration versus the role of council in that regard. And And the council typically would be involved in an active recruitment process to hire the CAO's role. But anything below that is really, and clarified in that bylaw, that it's the role of the CAO. In the case of senior department heads, it's a little bit of a different analogy. The way the bylaw is written is it says that the CAO will recommend to council any new senior directors. And so it's really up to the council to make the final call on senior directors now. And that's typically been the practice. You recall that back several years ago, those that were involved in council, not that long ago with the last council, we were in the midst of hiring a senior director, and it was brought to council as the bylaw requires it, and the council basically said, we don't wish to do that. In fact, staff were directed that they didn't want to have a say in hiring the senior directors, which in fact was contrary to the bylaw, but that was the direction this council gave. So just to clarify, no new staff can be hired in terms of increasing complement without approval from council now. And in terms of the senior directors, you have a bylaw in place which gives the authority to administer the recruitment process to the CAO, but the final decision on hiring the directors is with council on a recommendation from the CAO. And if the suggestion is that terms of reference be developed that would ask the council to handle the administration of the recruitment process, that's clearly a different direction than has been the case, and in fact has been in the bylaw since 1966.
Okay. I have another picture and Alderman Inoue.
Your Worship, this is the reason for this. We have to be part of the interviews. We have been elected by the people. It is our responsibility. It is time for this to change, and we want to take it back to where it should be. And I already have aldermen who have indicated they will sit on the committee. As of this afternoon, I had full support of this particular motion. It is time that our council took on the responsibility of being part of the hiring service and the interviewing. It's no fun. It's just come there and rubber stamp because you said this is a good choice. I want to be, and I'm not going to sit on this committee, but other aldermen will be part of the interview to say this was the best choice that came to the table. And that's what I want to see, and that's why the motion is here. And I do want that. I don't want someone else to make the decision for me.
Alderman Inoue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And the support of the motion, I don't think the intent of the motion is to get anybody's back up either. But generally, we are just the end decision makers. We don't know the application that came forward. We don't even see the top 5 applicants that come forward. Maybe we don't necessarily agree with who's put forward, but we wouldn't know whether we have the best person or not. I think it's a great idea. I think it works in other communities, and it did work here until it wasn't done again, and I think we should go forward with it.
Alderman Peter Angelo.
Your Worship, I just wanted some clarification, perhaps from staff, of committees like this that either took place in Niagara Falls, because I hear from one side that they used to exist, and then I hear from the other side that they never existed in Niagara Falls. So I wanted some clarification, actually, of whether or not we ever did have a committee where the councillors, or the politicians, or the elected officials were involved in the hiring process. And I'd also like to know what other municipalities do, Your Worship. Perhaps that can come out in the report that I think we're going to get back. But I'd like to know what our current situation, or our past situation was.
Your Worship, again, I'm not sure of what an HR committee did in the past, but I do know that you have no directors that work for the City of Niagara Falls now that were interviewed by politicians. I've talked to the former CAO as well, and if you look at his term and my term, that goes over about 17 years. And politicians have not been involved during the 17 years in terms of the administration and the recruitment process. It's not happened. Again, the role has been for the senior staff to administer the recruitment process and make a recommendation to council. And I don't believe at all it's a rubber stamp. I mean, I guess it depends on how a councillor may look at it, but clearly any information on the recruitment process, any information on applicants, as long as it's not a violation of the Privacy Act would be shared, but I can just tell you that's what's happened, at least from the CAO's perspective, for the last 17 years. What's happened before that, I'm not sure exactly. So.
Alderman Peter Ansel, does that answer your question?
I mean, I guess I've listened to 3 elected officials now say that there used to be these type of committees existing in the city of Niagara Falls. I listened to our CAO say that they've never been here. So I'm wondering who's right.
Okay. I have Alderman Iannone and Alderman Thompson.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe you should clarify the point.
If I could just clarify, I didn't suggest there was an HR committee. I have no knowledge of that. I'm suggesting that in the past 17 years, and with all of the directors we currently have on staff, aldermen were not involved in the hiring process, except in the level of the CAO.
Okay. Alderman Iannone.
Thank you. As the person who didn't get to replace the chair of that committee, I know that I asked about it at the time I got appointed because I was shifted to every other committee but that one. And that committee did not exist after the passing of Alderman Cummings. And I know that like it was yesterday. That said, we have, and this is no knock on anybody, but I'll use Mr. McDonald's position for an example. I've been here, I don't know how long, I'm not even going to read it, Corey will write it in the paper, but I don't think the entire time I've been on council have I ever seen an evaluation of this CAO or our last CAO. We're forever told we have one employee, Mr. McDonald, and Mr. McDonald has hundreds of employees that he's responsible for, but we're responsible for one. I have never seen a job evaluation for either one. I find that stunning. I don't know what work you have or what job anybody has where they don't have a job evaluation. I think that this HR committee should be involved in that in some process. I'm not saying that you're doing a bad job, not inferring that at all. I'm saying I don't know of a job that exists that doesn't have a job evaluation. We have it every 3 years, now every 4. But that certainly should be something that this HR committee looks at doing. And I don't think we should be job evaluating all of staff. Actually, that's the only problem I have with the motion, is that we're involved in all hiring. I mean, strictly it should be just senior management. And I told Alderman Fisher that on the telephone, that was my problem with that.
Yeah.
The rest of it...
I appreciate your point. I think that we might be hearing, though, there might be a point where we'll be evaluating the CAO as well. That's coming to us in the report yet.
We should be evaluating our senior staff. And I think that you need that HR committee should be involved in that also. Because those are the people, if I understand correctly, we're supposed to just deal with our senior staff on issues of road repair or calling the service center, i.e. Mr. McDonald and or the senior staff member involved. That puts us in the position of being able to evaluate the job, because last time I checked, it's their job with us or their interaction with us that we would be evaluating. So I think that's something we need to look into, and maybe that should be included in the scope of the report that comes back.
Mr. McDonald?
Just if you don't mind, not to have a debate here, but I agree 100%, and I think that it's quite inappropriate that there's not a formal process in place to interview the CAO. I brought that to the attention of Mayor Seltzy on several occasions. I've in fact included it as part of the terms of reference for the organization review, and in fact, when you get the report from the organization review, which will be in the next short period of time, there's a specific recommendation and there's a specific format in order to see that takes place, because that's been a real concern of mine as well. It'll be dealt with. I personally support that strongly. I clearly think it's inappropriate for the council to be evaluating senior staff below the CAO. I believe that's the role of the CAO to do that. And again, it's part of the bylaw which hires the CAO, and that's been his responsibility since at least 1966.
Thank you. I have 2 more speakers as well. I'd like to confirm that it's correct. Mr. McDonald, we did talk about the fact that we should be doing evaluation of our CAO, which hasn't happened before, to the best of my knowledge, and it's coming forward to us in a report. And more importantly, we should look at succession planning. I've talked to our CAO with regard to that, because we have to look at that as far as the continuity goes. I have 2 others who wish to speak, Alderman Thompson and Alderman Diodati.
Well, I think we've had enough debate. It's going to be referred to staff, and I think the reason that the committee fell apart was the same kind of resistance you're seeing right now. This committee was just let go by the boards because there wasn't any activity. There was no meetings held by the Human Resources Department and the people who were in Human Resources at the time were very reluctant to carry on with the committee, and that's the problem. And I think that we have a responsibility to have some involvement. And as far as the evaluation of the CAO, I used to do it with Ed Lustig. That's right.
The only one I've ever had.
On behalf of the council at the time.
No, Council.
But I think the way we're going is appropriate, and I don't think anybody has to be concerned about it. I think it's an appropriate committee, and I think you're going to have advocates who are in human resources who are going to be supported by the council because they're knowledgeable and aware of what's going on. Positive move.
Alderman Diodati?
Thank you, Worship. When Alderman Fisher called me today about this, I liked the idea that council, being elected officials, will help direct the city, and I weighed it with the idea that it's the CAO's responsibility to do. I looked at the bylaw and I thought, that clearly this has been the role of the CAO, and we haven't had any issues with our CAO. As a matter of fact, we've been very happy with them. That's not to say things can't be even better. I'll be curious to see the report when it comes back. I've heard he said, she said, I'd like to see the report and the to and fro, the good and the bad of doing something like this. I think involvement is good of this council, so we're not hands off. However, the one part I would never support is all aspects of human aspects, and I said this to Alderman Fisher today. If we're going to be involved in any way with helping out, and as we are now, I mean, it is an approval of council for senior staff. And if we need to reevaluate things, as far as our evaluation of our CAO, that's our fault. It hasn't been done because we haven't done it, and it's not our CAO's fault, it's our fault. And we need to make sure that we've got a set of guidelines and guidelines that we go over and that we follow. So in terms of this motion here, staff will come back with a report, and as I say, I want to make it clear that I don't want us to be involved in hiring all the foot soldiers and everything else. I think more than anything, it's given an opinion on some senior level to assist the CAO, not to undermine them and not to politicize hiring, because that's the last thing we want is witch hunts and political moves. I think that's going to work against us, and it'll be detrimental to the city.
Very much so. Thank you. Appreciate the comment. Alderman Carrier, it's going to be time
Your
to call
Worship,
the vote.
I'm going to save most of my comments till after we get the report back from our staff. I would just wonder whether they would include some investigation on other municipalities around us and what they do. Not that we're going to do what others do. I just would like to know what some of the other municipalities do in regards to this.
That's fair. A good question. Thank you. Okay, are we going to ask then that the council come back with the staff come back with a report, or you want to request an amendment to Alderman Fisher's motion? Alderman Fisher?
Yeah, terms of reference.
You want to amend yours to say?
Absolutely.
You will. Okay.
Yes.
All right. We've had enough discussion then, I think. So
Repeat the motion.
Okay. Who has the motion?
Well, let staff report back on an appropriate terms of reference for a possible Human Resources Committee, and that we look at examples in other municipalities and the history here in the city.
Okay. All right. Alderman Diodati?
Clarification, is that for, as it said here, all aspects of human resources or senior levels of...
That was the point I was trying to qualify with Alderman Fisher.
Term of reference. Terms of reference.
Right, terms of reference for committee for all aspects of human resources or senior levels of
Mr. Clerk?
Well, I think the report...
Senior levels.
Senior levels, okay.
I mean, the report would say that. The report would probably come back and say, does it make sense to have a committee hire all the foot soldiers, as you say? So that would be part of the report.
Okay. We've had sufficient discussion. All those in favor? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Your Worship, I have one more item.
Okay.
Thank you. I have some concerns of my role as an alderman. I have been elected by the people to answer their questions, to address their concerns, and I get phone calls not only from 8:30 in the morning to 4:30 at night, but I get them at all times and every day of the week, as every alderman does. I had a call, and I went out to see it for myself on Ridge Road. There are 3 parts of Ridge Road that breaks up on a regular basis. Now, Ridge Road is a road in the country. It is tarred and gravel. It is well used, and it's forever breaking up, and there are cars that are losing control and going in the ditch, and et cetera, et cetera. I called the service center, which I've been always allowed to do, to deal with people. I received a phone call, probably within an hour and a half to 2 hours later, from Mr. Dulevic. And Mr. Dulevic said that I'm not allowed to do this any longer, that I have to go through him. And I asked him when this happened. He said, this is a policy. I said, where did this policy come from? He said, from Mr. McDonald. Now, is this the truth, Mr. McDonald?
Sure, certainly, yeah. Your comments.
The fact is that that information was shared with the last council, and in fact, it was part of the manual with the orientation. The problem that policy is attempting to avoid is having aldermen phoning staff throughout the corporation. And we believe, and I think council has agreed with this, it's quite inappropriate to do that. If the council has an issue, they should, if it's a quick response, they can speak to any manager, because typically experienced aldermen know who the managers are, and we expect that would happen. If there's issues to deploy staff, that should go through the director. And in fact, the policy is that whether the CAO is contacted or the director is contacted, it's a priority for the staff to respond to it. It's quite inappropriate for an alderman to be calling a foreman or in fact even a lead hand and expecting those people to respond to that. It's created problems in the past. It creates major communication issues, and it's very important that the directors in each department know exactly what their staff are assigned, and it's their job to assign the work. And as we've talked before, an individual alderman has no authority to direct any staff person in the corporation. The council directs the CAO, who directs the staff, and it's quite inappropriate to encourage that kind of dialogue. Any concerns by an alderman will be addressed as quickly as possible. And we believe, and the council has believed in the past, it's certainly not a policy that I've decided would take place. It's something the council has discussed and supported. And in fact, we've been reminded of that on several occasions over the last 4 or 5 years. So it is in fact a practice in place, and hopefully in no way would it slow down a quick response. In fact, we hope we would get a quicker response and quicker resources to address the problem.
Well, Mr. McDonald, I have never harassed or taken upon myself to be overbearing to anyone. I've always gone out in the field with the employees to show them what I know. When I did this, and when I spoke to Mr. Dulevic, I said, that's fine. Will you get back to me? He said, oh yes, soon. It's well over a week, sir. I have not received a phone call. I have received nothing. And how am I supposed to respond back to the taxpayer? Please tell me. Plus, Sarah Street, how many things? And they keep asking me, what's happening? What's happening? I can't answer. Please tell me what my procedures are going to be, how I can address to my people what is happening. If I don't get answers, I can't respond. I'm being voted in, and they are expecting me to come back with an answer. Not just today, but maybe tomorrow. I'm not getting answers. I want to know why.
Perhaps, Alderman Fisher, I think you could take that up with our CAO, but I think that more efficiently the director would be in a position to answer the question with regard to the Sarah Street. I got a copy of the correspondence you received as well, and I directed it to his attention. And I guess I'm not certain why Mr. Dulevic hasn't responded to your Ridge Road inquiry, but I'm sure he's got it on his desk, but we can get an answer for you there. But I think more appropriately it makes more sense to have the director deal with it, and he might be able to direct where it should go from his perspective.
But if I don't ask it in public on television, the people out there think I'm not doing my job.
I don't think that's the case.
And it's not true. I am doing my job. I'm not getting the reaction from, look at this. Look at this water in a backyard. And it says, staff was out there and nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Sarah Street, Bella, $500,000 worth of damage. What's happening? Please tell the people on television what is taking place, please.
Mr. McDonald?
All I can say is that staff make every effort to respond quickly, and you can imagine there's many issues that staff deal with. The proper process is to go through the department head, and staff will make every effort to respond, and that practice has worked. As I said, some are easier to respond to than others, and I would suggest it isn't necessary to wait for every 2 weeks to bring them up at council than to do it
I
publicly.
will be bringing them up every week at council because other aldermen tell me they're having the same reaction.
You can make your own decisions on how you want to handle them, but it might be quicker to make the phone call to the director, and hopefully...
And when do I get a response?
As quickly as possible. All directors attempt to do that as quickly as they possibly can. I don't know the details of those individual issues, but all I'm saying is...
Can we ask Mr. Dulovic why he's not called me
So at
back?
that point, I think we need to clarify, Your Worship, is that staff do attempt to respond. The proper way is to go through the directors in each department, and I assure you they will respond as quickly as possible. If you find there's a problem they're not getting back, please speak to me, and we'll ensure it's taken care of.
And Alderman
Sorry,
Fisher, I
sir,
think
it doesn't happen.
Alderman Fisher, I think that if you give them an opportunity to have that question answered, I'm not sure about Mr. Dubik's response in respect to this specific, and I did bring this matter that you're talking about. I got a copy of the same letter dated December 22nd, received at my residence, and we brought it to the attention of Mr. Dubik just recently after the holiday period, and certainly we spoke to the same people during the same occurrence when it was raining that day. We had a problem with a pump that failed, and I can appreciate your concern and you want to respond, and I think that staff generally does so as expeditiously as they can. And Alderman Fisher, I think if you'd like, we could talk to Mr. Dubik and he can give us that response immediately after the meeting, if you like.
I think everyone was receptive to the fact there was a holiday. But there were many people who not only had the backup of sewage, but they lost pictures and things that were so precious to them. And you know something? They're still waiting. But when does Mr. Dulovic get back to me?
Mr. Yurfin?
Just with regard to some of the flooding you're speaking of, in a lot of those cases, there's been claims that have been filed, and, Ms. Kelly may want to comment on this through Mr. McDonald, but I mean, there's a process that has to be followed there.
But a phone call helps.
Okay. Mr. Dubik, do you want to make any comment?
Through your worship, on the Ridge Road, I did get the request last week from Alderman Fisher. I have given it to staff. There was a staffer on holiday because some of it has to do with the contractor, they believe, so we'll have to get to the contractor to do those repairs. So that staff member did return today. With respect to the flooding, the one letter that Alderman Fisher is referring to, I just received myself today from the mayor. It was addressed to his home, and he just submitted it to me today. There has been some information that did go back and forth on what happened on that storm of December 1st. I do know that the city has received a number of claims throughout the city. However, the problems that were occurred aren't the same in the various parts of the city. We had flooding in Mewburn Road. That was a problem at the pumping station with a blockage that went on there. We did have some problems in the Chippewa area, and I believe there was some email information that went out to council on that. I'll have to check the records on what some of the problems that happened there. Some of that had to deal with a portable pump that the city dispatched out there that failed, which resulted in the flooding. So staff has been following up with all those affected homeowners that have had flooding out there, and we are doing the visits, and we are attempting to visit each one of the homeowners that were affected individually.
So, sir, can I have a report back from you on Ridge Road in writing, and also on Sarah Street, Ushers, Willoughby Drive at Bella, and that whole area? Plus, I have one more here for you to view, which is water all over the backyard, so I'd like a report back.
Well, the water in the
So I have-
backyard, again, staff is following up with all those people that had water in their backyard. We're, and talking to them, we're having difficulty in people even responding to us with respect to those areas where we did have flooding in the backyard. If you could provide that information specifically on that property.
Very happy.
Okay.
But I would like a written report so I can reply
Alderman
back
Fisher,
to
would you be
these
kind enough
people.
then to make a motion if that's the case, please?
Thank you,
Direct your
I
comments,
will.
please, to the chair. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that you give me back a report on Ridge Road, also the Sarah Street Ushers, and Willoughby Drive at Bella. On that report, I'd like that so I can respond back to my people. And the one I'm giving you today on Lamont, I would like a report back on that one also. Thank
Okay, is
you.
there a second to the motion? Alderman Thompson. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Any other new business? Yes, Alderman Wing?
Yes, I think it's rather timely and appropriate that this follows rather closely on the heels of Alderman Fisher's first motion. During the recent election campaign, a majority of us who now sit around this table indicated our willingness to sign the Code of Ethics pledge. I think it's time we got the ball rolling on what we said we were willing to commit to. So I move that staff brings back a report on implementing a code of ethics for council members and senior staff.
Seconder to that motion, Alderman Iannone. Any discussion to the matter? Okay, Alderman Iannone.
And I think it's very interesting to hear our speaker on conflict of interest tell us that a lot of municipalities have this, enforce it, and suggest to us that this was a really good idea. So I think it's a timely motion, and I'll support it.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
I was waiting for Alderman Iannone. She had another motion she was going to make, which I was in favor of, regarding the $6,000 a month. And on a lighter note, Mr. Dulovic, I called him last week about depression in the road, asked him if they could look into it. The next morning when I got back to the office, a lady called and said it had already been done, so there's some positive aspects of it, too.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to hear. Thank you. Alderman Iannone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank Alderman Thompson. I forgot, in the discussion that was going around, we are currently paying Mr. McNaughton $6,000 a month. For what? I would suggest that I think it's a expenditure that the taxpayers also told us was a colossal waste of money. I'd like to make a motion that we suspend paying Mr. McNaughton from here on out, and I'd like to report back to see how much we've actually paid him.
We have a second to that motion. Alderman Wayne, any discussion on the motion? Oh, yes, Alderman Diodati.
Well, I'd like to hear from staff what exactly Mr. McNaughton's doing, and what the idea behind this is. What projects is he working for on our behalf? I mean, I can't vote for something unless I know what it is.
Okay, that's fair enough. Alderman Carrio?
I'm anxious to hear what Mr. McDonald has to say as well, Your Worship, before I...
Okay. Mr. McDonald?
We'll be happy to report back. And Mr. McNaughton's contract is basically focused on the downtown and really trying to assist us to seek out opportunities of both the federal and provincial governments relative to that. As mentioned earlier tonight, we did arrange, and he did arrange a meeting with Mr. Kaplan. We met with Mr. Kaplan. We have basically conference calls and updates, except during the Christmas holidays, on almost a weekly basis, where his staff are constantly dealing with the staff of the various ministries to sort of, I guess, keep the doors open for us. The problem really with, I guess we really don't get results until we get an indication, or we're getting some matching funds. And we're not at that point yet, and partly we're not at that point because we don't even have the financial business plan, as we referenced a bit earlier, ready to submit to them. So it's not going to happen. A formal request can't be made until that occurs. So it's really more putting the issue forward to the various ministries, to the senior staff at these ministries, and that's the typical kind of dialogue that's been going on over the last couple of months.
Okay. Yes, Alderman Carrio?
Just to follow up, Your Worship, I was more interested in the arrangement. What is the arrangement with Mr. McNaughton? Is it an hourly? Is it a month? What is the arrangement?
It's basically a $6,000 a month retainer.
Okay. We have Alderman Maves and Alderman Iannone.
Well, my question is, being the new guy on the block, I know nothing of Mr. McNaughton, so I pretty well have to abstain from the vote unless it's just for reference.
Well, I think we can get you some information before we vote, Alderman Maves. Alderman Iannone?
I'm going to amend my own motion. I'm going to ask for staff to bring back a report to update the new members of council and tell us what we're retaining him for. Because I understand you want him lobbying, but pay him for the time he's doing it. Don't pay him a blanket $6,000 to sit on retainer where we've had no information for months in regards to the downtown. I'd like to know exactly what he's doing to make $6,000 a month that the taxpayers are paying. That seems awful steep to hold him on retainer. Did he attend your meeting with Mr.?
He organized that meeting.
Did he attend with you?
Yes.
Now, I understand paying him for that, but I don't understand having him sitting there waiting for our next move. Why can we not pay him on an as-use or per hourly basis?
Yeah, I think Alderman Iannone, probably it goes back to the fact of the terms of his retention or retainer is based upon a monthly fee.
That's a great deal if you can get it, Mr. Mayor, and that's how consultants get rich. But if we're only going to use them for X amount of hours, let's pay them for X amount of hours and not a blanket $6,000 a month of taxpayers' money. So I'd like to know exactly, can council actually see what we've been billed and the contract, please?
Certainly,
Thank
we'll
you.
do that. We'll have that down as a motion then. So we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. McDonald. You can get back to us on that. Any other new business? Alderman Carrio.
Your Worship, I have a letter from one of the business people in downtown Chippewa, Mr. Dioman from Beyond Boredom. He was one of the people that was responsible for putting on the festival last July 7th. He's looking for some help from the city. It's self-explanatory in the letter. He wants
It's
to
the
do it again.
wakeboard, is that the competition you're talking about, the wakeboard?
Yes, the wakeboarding and the festival that took place in Chippewa. He's looking for council support and participation. It was pretty successful, Your Worship.
Yeah, I think there was some concern last time, Alderman, with regard to the appropriateness, because the ball was let go and the police were supposed to be involved and were not involved. The Parks
I think
Commission-
that's what the letter explains, Your
Yeah,
Worship.
so maybe he should submit it to the
Give it to
clerk.
staff and have them report back.
Please. Okay, thank you. Mr. Clerk, you can receive that?
Yeah, I'm well familiar with the background, and I can report back to council and respond to Mr. Diamond, is it, or I believe?
Diamond.
On what he's required to do to get various approvals.
He's looking for our support.
One of the things is that obviously he's going to be on the waterway. There's some issues there that aren't necessarily specific municipal issues because we don't control the waterway, but apparently back in 1980, the council did put forward something to the Department of Transport, the Federal Department of Transport, limiting the speed limit on the Welland River to 13 kilometers an hour. And for them to have a competition of this kind, they would have to get that speed limit at least not adhered to for the competition. And then, obviously other authorities like the police, et cetera, would have to sign off as well. So, I mean, he has time at least because it's proposed for the summer, so hopefully he can get all the approvals in place.
Your Worship, other than the letter, I had the opportunity to talk to him, and I think what he was suggesting to council, that it's very difficult to do business in Chippewa as it is, and they need all the help that they can get to do things like this, and that's why he's looking for our support, Your Worship.
Okay.
And I'd be willing to support him and help him with what he needs. He's looking for our help.
Good, we can come back hopefully and the clerk can give us a report back. Any other new business? Having seen none of that, yes, Alderman Maves?
I just wanted to mention that at a happy occasion in the Barnes family, Bob and Mary Barnes. Bob was a long-time employee here. He and his wife celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary, and Bob at the same time celebrated his 80th birthday. So I think that was back in December. I think you were there, Your Worship.
I was.
And I want to pass on congratulations to the Barnes family. Also, on a sad note, his brother Jack, who was a great hockey player and a great fan of hockey. He was a trainer for the old Carrio Hockey Club, as well as he was a trainer for the old Thunderbirds football team, and he passed away last Saturday, I believe. So I pass on our condolences to the Barnes family.
Thank you, we will, and thank you for bringing that to our attention, the omission. I regret that, but we certainly will. We are sending we're sending a letter of condolence to the family as well, so that's all we've done on behalf of council. Motion to adjourn. Alderman Peter Angelo, second by Alderman Diodati. All those in favor, motion is carried. Thank you very much, members of council.